You know, guys, it's pretty hilarious that Donald Trump is always trying to brand himself as some sort of master negotiator, some sort of great deal maker, says we're going to be respected all over the world again, and that he's the conflict-free president, and that none of these wars would have ever started if he were in office. And then what do we see now? We see Donald Trump coming back as president. We see Israel striking Iran. Now they're in a hot war, even though Donald Trump was trying to negotiate some sort of nuclear deal 2.0 with Iran. That happened under his watch. And then instead of sticking around and trying to engage in diplomatic talks or diplomatic negotiations, Donald Trump decides he wants to leave the G7 summit early. And he doesn't necessarily tell anybody why he wants to leave early, but he kind of makes it sound like some sort of emergency. And then he starts spouting off at the mouth all of these unhinged things, and nobody can really pin him down as to what he actually means. It's because Donald Trump is an adult old man, and he's just trying to work his way through these golden years, except he is the most powerful person on earth. It should be terrifying to all of us, but here he is being asked, why exactly did you leave the G7 summit early? If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
You just posted right before we took off that you're not leaving because of a ceasefire. Why are you? Can you elaborate?
Looking at better than ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire.
What does that even mean? And for those of you that didn't hear, he said, we're not looking for a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. We're looking for something better than a ceasefire. Except I'm not really going to answer your question about why I left G7 summit early, but we're not trying for a ceasefire. We need something better. What does that mean? You are the president of the United States, and you sound like somebody in middle school trying to explain some sort of history project or something. We're looking for something better than a ceasefire, guys. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know what it means. I don't think anybody knows what it means. And then he is asked why he told people that they should evacuate in Tehran.
What was the thinking on the call for Tehran to evacuate? Is there a threat or is there incoming? What was the thinking on the full evacuation?
I want people to be safe. And that's always possible. A thing like that could happen. I just want people to be safe.
Is there any new concern about U.S. troops or assets in the region at all?
We have great people that know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better, what's the
we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard that the gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
I think they know not to touch our troops, guys, and if they do, the gloves are coming off so beautifully. But why did you put out that Truth Social saying that everybody should evacuate Tehran? Was there some sort of threat that we don't know about? Why did you send out that Truth Social post? He's like, no, not really. I just want everybody to be safe, guys. I mean, just imagine how insane this is. I think more than 10 million people live in Tehran there. And you're telling people that everybody needs to evacuate? I mean, what is going on? Is this guy that unwell? I mean, he's like a demented old man who's just, like I said, spouting off at the mouth, and he has no idea what the hell he's actually talking about. I mean, saying that everybody should evacuate, and there's 10 million people living in that city, and there's no underlying threat or underlying concern about why people should evacuate. I mean, that is just insane. It's just insane. This is our president, everybody. I mean, how embarrassing. Here he is being asked about, well, why are you flying back to Washington then? And listen to his unhinged answer.
What can you do in Washington that you wouldn't do in Canada?
Just be a little bit, I think, more well-versed. Not having to use telephones so much, because I don't believe in telephones. Because people like you listen to them. Yeah. So, being on the scene is much better.
What? Why are you flying back to Washington instead of staying at the G7 summit? Oh, well, because I don't want to use telephones. I don't believe in telephones because people like you, as he points to a report, people like you, listen to them? What does that even mean? You're flying back to Washington so you could post up in a command center Except you're not going to be using telephones because you don't believe in telephones, instead of staying at the G7 summit where you could actually have one-to-one, face-to-face conversations with our diplomatic partners or our allies or whatever it may be. I truly don't understand what is going on here. And to think that Donald Trump, he doesn't believe in phones? What does that mean? Again, I'm just so confused. I'm just so confused. Here he is talking about how he finally got to sign a trade deal with UK at the G7 summit.
And we did everything I had to do on the G7. We had a good G7. We signed the deal with the European Union, phase one of a deal, but we signed the deal with the UK. And the UK is really great. We're very far down the line with a lot of deals. I mean, look, we're actually finished with every deal if you really think about it, because all I have to do is say, this is what you're going to pay.
Did Secretary
But
Bessent
it's nice to be nice.
Again, guys, this dude is not well. He's talking about the UK deal, and apparently they did get something signed. I think they got a couple of the things marked off the list and agreed to, but they still don't know what they're going to do with the steel imports and all that stuff. So he says it's like a phase one of a deal or something like that. The whole entire deal is still not worked out, but they did make some progress as to what they're signing. But then he goes on to say that, well, we got the deal, and, I've got pretty much every other deal is in place too, because all I have to do is send out a piece of paper and say, well, that's what you're going to pay. What? Again, this is a delusional old man who has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Making a deal between our trading partners does not mean you send them a letter saying, your tariff rate is now 47.2%. The deal is the deal. It's done. That is not what a deal is, dumbass. Again, I think this comes back to Donald Trump put on these Liberation Day tariffs, and he was expecting all of these countries to come running, to come begging and pleading to make these new deals with Donald Trump. And I think most of our trading partners said, fuck this guy. We're not doing that. We'll just go ahead and trade right around the United States. So I don't think many countries came on bended knee like Donald Trump was anticipating. And now that we're getting closer to that Liberation Day deadline, which is July 9th, I believe, Donald Trump has pretty much nothing to show for it besides these little progresses that he made with UK and maybe a couple others. But as far as 90 deals in 90 days, it seems like they're a far, far cry away from that. And the deal, like I said, the deadline is coming up. And so now you've got Trump saying, well, if you think about it, guys, all the deals are actually worked out because I just have to send them a letter saying how much they need to pay, or they just don't have to do business with us. It's insane. It's insane. Here he is doubling down on the idea that he's going to be waging war on blue cities all across the country.
I heard you say that ICE is going to start enforcing in hotels and bars again. Is that a change of course from last week?
We're gonna look everywhere, but I think the biggest problem is the inner cities. We're looking everywhere. Look, what they let into this country, what Biden let in, that were allowed to, I don't think he knew what the hell he was doing, frankly, but whoever worked for him, what they let into this country, we're never going to forget it.
I just want to pause it right here because I don't know if I've ever seen the disgust on Donald Trump's face that I just saw. I'm going to rewind it and watch his face as he says, we were never going to forget it. Watch the pure disgust that you can see in his face. Here goes.
What they let into this country, we're never going to forget it.
That is disgusting. I don't think it's something that I've ever seen before, but something that I noticed just now as we were watching this together. Donald Trump is basically scowling at the idea of these immigrants being in our cities, and that Joe Biden let them all in, and that he's never going to forget it, guys. He's never going to forget it. But let's keep on going.
They let prisoners in, they let gang members in, drug dealers in, the mentally insane into our country. Now we're going to get them out.
So no one's gonna-
There are far more in the inner cities, Democrat-run cities. Sadly, I'm just giving you. There's far more in there than you have on farm someplace.
They're not hiding it, guys. Donald Trump is coming out and saying, right out in the open, that we are targeting blue cities, that we are going after these power centers, these democratic hubs, because that is what authoritarian regimes do. They want to target their perceived enemies. They want to silence dissent. Like I mentioned in another video, do you think the attacks or what's going on down in LA right now with Donald Trump deploying the National Guard, deploying active duty military, doing these widespread ICE raids, do you think that's just some sort of coincidence? No, they are targeting LA on purpose. This is a fight that they want to pick. These are the optics that they want. They want ICE rolling into these blue cities. They want to provoke some sort of reaction because they think this makes them look good. And this is a way for them to try to squash Gavin Newsom before he becomes more of a political threat to the Republican Party or Donald Trump. They're saying it out in the open. These tactics are going to ramp up. We are going to see troops on the streets in cities all across the country. That is what they are aiming for here, and he is not even hiding it. It's not what we should be doing in America. But this is what fascist fucks do. This is what they do. Let's go to move on. Here he is basically saying, well, I don't really trust my director of national intelligence, DNI. Yeah, that's correct. Talking about Tulsi Gabbard here.
So you've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having.
I don't care what Tulsi Gabbard said. I think they were close to having one. Now, if you didn't hear Caitlin Collins there, she said, well, Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that Iran wasn't working towards building a nuclear weapon. And Donald Trump says, well, I don't care. I don't care what she said. I don't believe her. I think they were actually developing a nuclear weapon. Now, I've seen mixed reporting on this. I've seen some people say that they were barreling towards nuclear weapon development. I've heard from, Tulsi Gabbard and others that maybe they weren't as close as some people made it out to be. I mean, this has been a fear across democratic nations for quite some time that Iran is developing some sort of nuclear technology or nuclear capability. I'm not exactly sure where the truth lies on this particular matter, but I think it's absolutely hilarious that Donald Trump is coming out and saying, yeah, I don't trust that person. I don't trust Tulsi Gabbard, even though she's the director of national intelligence. This is the person who's supposed to be consolidating all of our intelligence gathering into a succinct report for the President of the United States. She's the person who is supposed to be the point guy on issues of national intelligence. So I find it absolutely hilarious that he's coming out and saying, I don't believe her. She's crazy. I don't believe that. Anyway, let's go on and move on to this last clip, which is just so disgusting. Not necessarily something that we wouldn't expect from Donald Trump, but in the wake of a Democratic lawmaker and her husband being killed in Minnesota and 2 others, even 3 or 4 others targeted for political assassination, Trump is asked whether or not he plans to call Tim Walz or if he has called him already. And this is what Donald Trump has to say.
Evacuate.
On Minnesota, there were a lot of horrific details that came out today about the suspect who's been charged there. Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. He appointed this guy to a position. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call him and say, hi, how you doing? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
Why would I call him, guys? Why would I waste my time doing that? Tim Walz, he's whacked out. He's crazy. What an absolute despicable thing to say. After people lost their lives because a MAGA lunatic decided he was going to take matters into his own hands and assassinate Democratic officials, Democratic politicians in the state of Minnesota. People who were friends with Tim Walz, And instead of showing any compassion or any empathy at all, Donald Trump proves that he is the psychopath that he is and said, why the fuck would I waste my time calling Tim Walz? He's a crazy person. And did you even know, guys, that the suspected killer, he was appointed by Tim Walz anyway. So why would I waste my time calling Tim? Why would I do that? It is absolutely grotesque. The suspect in this case was appointed by the previous governor to some sort of business development or workforce development board. Tim Walz re-upped his appointment. I don't even think he knew Tim Walz. So to try to draw that connection as to cast doubt on Tim Walz himself, even though we know the suspect in this shooting or in this murder plot, assassination plot, is a right-wing lunatic who listens to InfoWars, who voted for Trump and was a very strong supporter, who had very strong views on abortion. To try to muddy the waters and say, well, Tim Walz appointed him, and I'm not going to waste my time calling him because he's a whacked-out lunatic. Absolutely despicable. But like I said, nothing that we shouldn't expect from Donald Trump. He is a psychopath. Donald Trump only cares about Donald Trump. He has no empathy. Even when, yeah, I'll just leave it there. He's a pathetic and weak man. He's a terrible human being. He is degrading in his old age faster than anybody on the right is willing to admit. And now we've got hot wars going on around the world. We've got Donald Trump pulling out of the G7 summit. We've got him pulling out of different diplomatic negotiations or talks. And it's just all a shit show. This is Donald Trump's America. We are the laughingstock of the world under Donald Trump's leadership. I mean, just imagine for 1 second if Joe Biden came out and said, yeah, why would I call him? It's a waste of my time. What if he said that about Donald Trump after Donald Trump's assassination attempt? Imagine how the right wing would react. It would be absolutely insane. This double standard has really got to stop. These right-wing lunatics, they're out of control. So, I'll leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just launders all of this authoritarian nonsense for Donald Trump day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to see how millions upon millions of people turned up to speak out against this authoritarian takeover and this fascist regime, go to watch that video on the screens now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.